April's coming up crazy fast, and there's a ton of great new games coming. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Gamerx, the top 10 new games of April 2023. Let's get right into it. Number 10 is Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened. Now this is a game that has been remastered before, however this is a full remake of the 2007 Sherlock/Cthulhu crossover mystery. Now for anybody who enjoyed The Sinking City, Frogwares, these guys are the guys who made that, and this is something I'd maybe recommend for somebody who hasn't played the back catalog of the actually pretty damn good Frogwares games. This is probably going to be a good one for you if that's the case, because it's a full remake of the game. It's not just improving the visuals, there's the gameplay, it's also improving the script. This was actually Frogwares' first 3D game. Up until this, the Sherlock Holmes series was basically a point and click, and this one actually did have point and click aspects to it, despite it being technically first person. Given that it's being released to pretty much every console, I'd expect it to play a little more like a traditional third-person, like modernized game at this point, especially given that the remaster contained a full new third-person mode, and all the footage I've seen of this game makes it feel like that's probably how it's going to land, and I think it looks much, much better than how it used to look. I mean, this is more or less the game that sent Frogwares on the path to The Sinking City, and I do acknowledge it, it has flaws, and every Frogwares game has some jank, but I do think they're pretty adept at making an open-world mystery game. Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened is landing on PS4, PS5, the Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC April 11th. Moving on to number 9, it's Ghostwire Tokyo. Again, this came out last year as a timed exclusive for the PS5. It's landing on the Xbox Series this upcoming month. Now, this is a first-person action-adventure game with a pretty interesting form of combat. It actually got a little criticism for what was called by critics clunky movement, but I'm not sure I agree with that. I thought it was a pretty fluid and interesting combat system, and this is one of those games that's been written really well. It has a great narrative, this really immersive world that looks different from anything you've ever seen. It's like photoreal Japan with all these supernatural elements, and I'm not sure I'd say the bosses were what you might hope for them to be, given how great the enemy encounters in this game are. But again, it has an awesome story. Atmosphere in this game, pretty much second to none. It's beautiful, haunting, weird, and it's definitely not perfect. Still, it's something special in its own way. It took about a year, but Ghostwire Tokyo is coming to the Xbox Series April 12th. At number 8 is the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Now, this collection is a lot like the other Mega Man Legacy collections. They include all 6 of the mainline Mega Man Battle Network games, including both versions of Battle Network 3 through 6. But these are really different than mainline Mega Man games. If you've never played them, they're real-time tactical RPGs. There's a world map, there's NPCs. The combat in this game takes place in a sort of virtual reality where you take control of a program called megaman.exe to do all your battling, and you're more or less fighting viruses. It's an interesting series, and it's so far removed from what people know Mega Man as, and I think if you're open to something very different, it's worth a shot, even if you didn't play the original series. However, if you're not into tactical RPGs, probably not for you. That said, I think the series is a really good example of games of that genre. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is coming to PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC April 14th. At number 7 is Meet Your Maker from the developers of Dead by Daylight. Now, if you wanted to combine Super Mario Maker and Doom, that's what you get here. It's an FPS where the point of the game is to design levels that are basically paths to acquire genetic materials, which are found at the center of the outpost. So you're basically making a path to those genetic materials as a level maker, and as a player, you raid that outpost either solo, you could do a co-op. That said, I don't think you can build in co-op, but in terms of the action, it looks a lot like Doom. You got a lot of firearms, obviously, grenades, a melee weapon, and this is the best part, they put the grappling hook in it. So you got all that. It sounds like a pretty good idea to me. Personally, I'm interested in it. I'm interested to see if it works out, because to be frank, Super Mario Maker is a kind of game that stands alone, not only in its genre, but there's not really a lot of quote-unquote maker games. I think this looks like a really fun version of that. Meet Your Maker is coming to the PlayStations, the Xbox Series, and PC April 4th. At number 6 is Bramble, the Mountain King, what's described by the developers as a grim adventure set in a world inspired by dark Nordic fables. Sounds good to me. Call me crazy, but I think video game developers are really starting to realize the well of material that exists in Nordic fables, and they're really starting to utilize it as inspiration for some pretty cool games. The plot for this one is that you're a boy who is trying to find his sister and save her from the titular Bramble, a monster. This game shows us a combination of like fairy tale stuff, some cute NPCs, and some kind of messed up looking monsters, Bramble included. I think it's also one of those games that's going to get a little more freaky than it's letting on, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun when Bramble the Mountain King lands on PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC April 20th. Moving on to number 5, it's Road 96 Mile Zero, a prequel to the very successful Road 96, and it sort of sets up the characters for that game. You're essentially a couple of teenagers. Zoe, Miles, spoiler alert, flees from her home, and that's kind of why the original game happened in a way. It made a name for itself by kind of having an interesting narrative and some procedurally generated stops along a more or less winding road across the northern border of the game's fictional country. You hitchhike, you walk, you even steal cars, and while I think the feel is probably going to be very similar here, the structure obviously isn't. It takes place in what appears to be a town and a house, so it's probably going to be a little different from that sort of road trip, roadshow type game that Road 96 is. However, again, I would guess the tone and characters are going to end up pretty similar. If you enjoyed Road 96, you're probably going to enjoy this prequel. It sets up the narrative in the main game. Road 96 Mile Zero is coming to the PlayStations, the Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC on April 4th. And number 4 is Minecraft Legends, an action strategy game that obviously takes place in the Minecraft universe. The story that there are monsters invading from the Nether, spreading corruption. It's an interesting kind of game that's not really canon in Minecraft. It's sort of treated as a fairy tale or folklore that's been passed down through generations. So it's not taking place in any kind of mainline Minecraft world that in future games you're going to have to deal with the consequences of the actions here. It looks pretty similar to the other Minecraft spin-off games, the action ones, except for there's also a heavy strategy element layered in. They are retaining action elements from the other ones. I don't know exactly what the balance is going to be, but I think if you enjoy the Minecraft spin-off titles, this is probably going to be something you're interested in. It comes to us via collaboration between Mojang and Blackbird Interactive, which was founded by some employees that are from Relic Entertainment, which you probably know through Homeworld if you know it at all. This looks like a good game. I'm interested in it. Minecraft Legends is coming to the PlayStations, the Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and PC on April 18th. And at number 3 is Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, an expansion that's adding a large amount of stuff to the game. A new campaign, new story, and in a lot of ways it's like the Frozen Wilds from Horizon Zero Dawn, except for obviously we're talking about burning rather than freezing, polar opposites. Most people are expecting this to be a kind of epilogue that's probably a similar length to the Frozen Wild, so kind of its own game, but not as big of a game as Forbidden West itself. But they've done surprisingly little marketing around this game. I think they probably realize that people are anticipating it, because they do a very good job with their DLC expansions. Again, original game and Frozen Wilds are the example. However, while Forbidden West is available on PS4 and 5, Burning Shores is a PS5 exclusive, so this is a full-on next-gen release as an expansion to a cross-gen game. Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores is landing on PS5 April 19th. And at number 2 is Dead Island 2, the sequel to 2011's Dead Island. Ultimately, a game a lot of people have kind of always wondered if it would ever come out. It's switched developers a few times, there's been a lot of problems in development, but it is coming. It's set 10 years after the first game, which is appropriate because it's more than that after the first game now. It takes place in an open world Los Angeles and also San Francisco, carries over some of the crafting systems and stuff from the original, however, meant to be a much larger game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the game just coming out seems like a bizarre enough thing, but from everything I've seen of it, it actually looks pretty good. I enjoyed the original Dead Island, and I like the idea of a larger open world, and I like that they've made it a little more colorful and vibrant to match the area they've placed this game in. Dead Island 2 is coming to the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and the PC April 21st. And finally, at number 1 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to the Star Wars Soul-like Jedi Fallen Order. There is tons of new improvements on what was already a frankly very good game. Like the base game, great, original, and yet very familiar. It's a Souls-like, but it's not overly hard, and it has some things that kind of remind me of Uncharted as well. But we're adding a lot more to this game, like some new stances in Jedi lightsaber combat, a Kylo Ren style crossguard saber, and more interesting to me is the Force stasis. That seems like that's a pretty fun idea to add into the Jedi Fallen Order style game. Again, like, this is a game where the original is very good, really enjoyable, and the fact they've done some stuff to improve upon it that sounds like it doesn't mess with a working formula that people like, I'm completely there. I'm ready. Give me more Jedi Fallen Order with some great new improvements. That is Jedi Survivor. Star Wars Jedi Survivor comes to PS5 and Xbox Series as well as PC. We have a few bonus games for you as well. First, Star Trek Resurgence, a narrative adventure game coming to you from former employees of Telltale Games, now developing games under the name Dramatic Labs. This was a game that got delayed. It was pretty well anticipated, and I think given the developers, it's probably going to be one that is pretty interesting. It's landing on the PlayStations, the Xbox Series, and PC, April 2023. Also landing is the Switch remake of Advance Wars 1 and 2 entitled Reboot Camp. These are full remakes of the old turn-based strategy games that sort of standardizes them, brings them into a better format with better visuals, but doesn't overtly modernize them. They also include versus mode for both local and online multiplayer, as well as a map maker, and that's landing on the Switch April 21st. And finally, Roots of Pacha, a co-op farming and life simulation game. Now, you've probably heard that before, but what makes it very different from what you might know in like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley is the fact that it's set in Stone Age. That obviously limits a lot of the things that you can do in terms of tools and technology, but it also adds a lot of more exotic things that you wouldn't expect. We're not used to living in the Stone Age in this type of game, so I think it shows a lot of promise. Different time period, great art. It's landing on PC April 25th. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Gamerx.